Welcome to Monday Night Pink Power Call. My name is Tova Privet, Emerald Ambassador, if you don't know me. And I'm really excited to chat tonight about some mindset stuff. If any of you know me well, you know I really enjoy kind of digging into this stuff. And I debated several possible titles for this call. I think my favorite was when thoughts attack in honor of Shark Week coming up. But just for ease of memory, I went with the ABCs of dealing with your discouragement, and we're kind of jump into all the things that can mean for you. So there's lots of adjectives and lots of feelings we could use. So you can kind of insert for yourself what's applicable to you. So if you have not, I would venture to guess most of you have had times when you're feeling really discouraged in your business. So first of all, I want to say it's okay. And it's totally normal. And if you haven't, that's great too. But really, this is a matter of when it will happen, not if it will happen. And I don't want this call to feel like negative or all down, but I do want you to feel prepared. So you're not kind of paralyzed or, like, well, geez, what do I do when this does happen? So I want you to leave here tonight with some tools in your tool belt for when this happens, or if you find yourself in it right now, what can you do to kind of feel in a little more control? So I'm gonna pull my notes up here. All right. So let's get into it. This call might be helpful to you if you have ever felt yourself having these thoughts. I should be a higher rank than I am by now. What am I doing wrong? Do I really have what it takes to do this? And all these things are going to be associated. These are just some example questions with feeling discouraged, maybe frustrated, worried, fearful. All of you are going to kind of pick a different word that seems to sneak up on you. And it tends to be the same one or two that you struggle with. And the more you dig into thought work, the easier it will be to recognize when that's happening, and then you can do something about it. So that's what we are here for right now. And that's the point of this talk. Number one for your A is awareness. So this sounds really obvious to be aware, but a lot of us aren't really super aware of the thoughts we're having. We tend to be aware of the feelings, even though we're not awesome at naming the exact feelings sometimes, but we tend to know if we're feeling good or crappy. But I encourage you to name those, because there's a lot of differences and nuances. And if you're feeling afraid of something, or if you're feeling really discouraged or overwhelmed, those are different things, all under the kind of negative umbrella. So step one is being honest with yourself that I'm not feeling real great right now, and I kind of wonder why and what's causing that, and taking a little bit of time to dissect it. Now, there is a balance with everything, and I'm going to kind of highlight that through these points, or what are the common pitfalls that people have, and what should you be trying to do instead. And none of us are going to do this perfectly. That's something I want you to know, that sometimes I think people give up on thought work because it does feel hard at the beginning sometimes. And I want you to keep in mind that 1% more. You just have to make a tiny little effort to keep these things in check. And if you keep making tiny efforts, as with anything, those are going to add up and start to make a ginormous difference. So awareness. Processing something is different than just wallowing in it or sitting in it. And festering in it. I feel like that's a good word. So we can really let our negative feelings suck us in, and actively engaging in this process and literally processing it will help you step through it and help you see past it. And that's really what I want. If you kind of think of this as a cloud or a fog, like negative feelings, you gotta have a focal point past it, and you can't just sit in there and kind of go in circles. So be honest with yourself and your upline. And I just want to say, from a Christian perspective, if you think about it, if the enemy can get in our thoughts and screw with our thoughts and freeze us and put us into inaction, then they've kind of sabotaged any impact we can have and any positivity we can have on someone else. I could totally psych myself out about this call and not bring it to you guys in the full way I want to. And then somebody out there might really need this call. So keep that in the back of your head, that as a Christian woman or man who's trying to really grow and impact business here, that your thoughts are going to be attacked. Okay. So just don't be surprised when that happens. So once you get through awareness of just kind of being like, I'm not having the best day, I don't feel great about my business, talk to yourself and your upline about it, hopefully. And we'll kind of hit on that later on. But most of us should have someone in your upline that you can kind of go to and externally process how you're feeling about your business. So number 2, B in our ABCs is to be kind to yourself. I want you, so often we are not. And here's a great kind of litmus test. If you had a friend who wasn't in Plexus, who owned their own business, a restaurant or a gym or whatever, and they were feeling worried about it and stressed about it, and they went out to lunch with you and they were saying these things like, I really feel like we should be doing better by now. I didn't expect it to be this way. I really don't know if I'm cut out to be a business owner. What kind of posture would you have with them? They're a good, close friend. What kind of things would you say? And your temperament. We often don't talk to ourselves with that level of compassion, and you really need to, okay? Because you hear your own voice more than any other voice in your whole life. So be kind to yourself. And part of being honest is not being overly critical. And again, we don't want to go to the other extreme where we ignore things and just try to push these feelings aside and not acknowledge them. They won't go away. They'll keep coming up, and we don't want to overindulge in them either. So this is very human to go through an array of motions with your business. There's going to be awesome mountain peaks, and there's going to be not so great mountain peaks, easier days, harder days, and just acknowledging where you are and that you're having thoughts. Guys, we have like 60,000 thoughts a day. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the ballpark. More of them tend to be negative, and that's your brain's kind of defense mechanism. It's always looking for problems to keep you safe and keep you alive. But if you don't keep that in check, it can kind of sabotage you and your thoughts for your business. And so we're reading, I can't remember the author's name at the time, but Successful Women Think Differently. She spoke at convention. In her book, she talked about a 5-to-1 ratio, where for every one negative thought we have, you have to have 5 positive thoughts just to balance it out, just to break even. So think about that math. Like, are you really doing that each day? I know for sure, most of the time, I'm probably not in the right ratio. So knowledge is power, and you can do more when you know more. So make sure you're having compassion for yourself and acknowledging that thoughts are neutral. That's the point I wanted to make with the 60,000 thoughts. They're not necessarily good thoughts or bad thoughts. Don't really assign a lot of morality to them. They're just thoughts we're having. And what matters is, are we going to keep them? And what action are we going to take once we have those thoughts? So the great thing is you're totally in control, and you need to empower yourself that, yeah, even though some thoughts may sneak in that I really don't appreciate and really aren't helpful to my business and my daily actions, I can do something about it. So examples of self-criticism, this is kind of the roadblock people get into with this category. Why am I thinking so negatively? I shouldn't be this negative. I shouldn't be this way. It should be easier for me to be positive. I should just snap out of it and be more grateful. So like overarching, yes, we want to move towards positivity. We want to move past that, but being self-critical and not showing yourself compassion is going to slow you down straight up. So if you really do want to get away from feeling negative and feeling that way, be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like you would one of your kids or one of your friends, or like we were given the example of the other business owner. Also, something to keep in mind are possible triggers. There can be certain situations or people that seem to elicit these feelings. And most often it's accidental, it's not intentional, but there's some people that really may not make you feel like they're cheerleading for you and can kind of trigger more negative, insecure thoughts about your business. And I'm not saying cut those people out of your life, but you might need to create some boundaries and some distance with them. If you notice every time I'm kind of around this person, I feel more negative or discouraged about my business afterwards. This can even happen with some sideline relationships, or I'm not as confident in myself. So insulate yourself. This goes back to the law of the inner circle. Who are the people who are talking to you most? And don't forget that hopefully this call is highlighting that you are the most important person in your own inner circle. Okay. You have a massive influence. So would you, in essence, include you in your own inner circle if you had a friend who talked just like you talk to yourself? So check that out. All right. Step 3, we did awareness. We did be kind to yourself. Step 3 in this process is connection. I'm not naturally like, my first instinct is never to pick up the phone and call someone when I'm feeling discouraged or feeling negative about something. I kind of just want to think about it and mull over it. Again, if you want to talk about the best, most efficient, effective way to get through these times, it's to connect with someone. And that is face to face, or talking on the telephone, or talking on Zoom. It's not texting, and it's not just chewing on it by yourself. So I have to just know that that's a fact, and I got to kind of force myself to do it and stay in the habit of that. And I always feel better when I do. And I don't need someone to have all the answers, and neither do you guys. You need someone who is going to just help you talk through it, like we're doing right now. And Emily Gibson always says, you can't read the label of the ketchup bottle from the inside. So people will just hear things differently and see things differently because you're just so immersed in it. It's your thoughts and your feelings. It's normal for you to kind of have a different perspective. I do want to warn you, just like I said with triggers, you have to be really careful who you reach out to connect with about your business, specifically when you're feeling discouraged or frustrated. Do not take advice or connect with people when you're feeling bad that aren't in a spot you would want to be in, that you wouldn't want to trade places with. If there's somebody else who's really struggling with their business too, it's not that you're not friends with them or you guys wouldn't hang out or something, but when you need somebody to help you focus and reset and move forward, like you can't pour out what you don't have. So make sure, usually the best spot to go is up. And if for some reason your upline situation is weird, reach out to, whoever many layers up, and we'll help you figure it out. But have those, preferably 2 people, 3 people, because everybody has bad days. So your one go-to person might not be free that day. Have 1 or 2 people that's a safe place to go to, who will just help you process and encourage you, listen and encourage. Because somebody might have good intentions and just be like, this business seems to really be stressing you out. Maybe you need to take a step back. Like, that is usually not the best advice. All right. Step 4, moving through this, dissecting the truth. So some of you may have heard me talk about the thought model in the past, and I'm not going to get super deep into that today. That's the CTFAR thing. There's more than one type of thought model out there that people teach. Super interesting if you like that kind of stuff. But if you were going to fit it into one of my steps today, it would be here. And really the purpose of that is for you to literally kind of graph out, chart out, externalize your thoughts and feelings. And there are too many things going on in your head. And I really don't think you can do this effectively without writing it down. It's like learning long division. You just got to write it down. Even if you get really good at long division, you should probably write it down. That's how I feel about the thoughts and the feelings. And so if you just think of a little quadrant, I did not include it. If you want this afterwards, send me a message and I can send it to you. But I just want to walk you through one example of how you would go through the steps of analyzing a thought. We don't usually know our thoughts kind of intuitively unless we sit down intentionally and think about it. What we do know is like, I'm feeling discouraged. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling overwhelmed. So that's the result of a thought. So you got to sit down and kind of think about, what is my primary thought that's causing me to feel that way? So here's one. If you're feeling worried about your business, you feel worried. The thought might be behind it, could be lots of thoughts, but one might be, I'm afraid that my points are going down. I am worried that my points are going down. So my points have been going backwards. That's kind of a fact, something that's happening. not necessarily good or bad. It's just something you're observing and you're now feeling worried about it. So you would write those side by side, your feeling and the thought behind it, to kind of narrow down what we want to work on. Because if you just, it's overwhelming because we have so many thoughts. So pick one or two kind of thoughts that seem to be contributing to your primary emotion at the time that you would like to change and you would like to get through and feel better. And then you can kind of start to see patterns there. And what you're going to do with the thought, kind of on the left side of the quadrant, if you have your thought right beneath it, you can write a fact. So we'll have the thoughts and facts kind of on the left side of it. And then the right side, you're going to have feelings and questions. So kind of tangible and intangible. So a fact that I might write based on that I feel worried, I'm afraid, I'm worried because my points are going backwards. A fact that I could write down that we all know to be true is I know all successful people have lots of point fluctuations on their journey to success. So that's a fact. That's an observable fact that we could ask any diamond in the company. Yes, they've had lots of fluctuations. So a question you could ask is, what am I saying? What am I making my point fluctuations say about me or mean about me? Because that's really a neutral fact. And if you don't believe me, here's a great example. 500 points. So that's Ruby for us. The very first time someone hits Ruby, and the very first time you hit Ruby, think about how you'd feel. Okay, like just think about that for a second, how wonderful it feels, how exciting it feels, how much work you've put into that, how your team pulled together, so exciting. Later, you go on to hit senior Ruby, things fluctuate and get crazy. How do you feel when you go back to 500 points? Guys, 500 points is 500 points. That is a neutral thing, but your brain will feel and have different emotions tied to that 500 points the first time you hit it, or if you were to quote unquote slide down to it again, even though we know there's massive point fluctuations on your journey to where you want to go. So that's a good example of separating, teasing out how you're feeling for what's the thought behind it. What do we know to be true? There's lots of fluctuations. And then what are some questions I could ask myself? Why am I attached to the thought that this means I'm doing something wrong? Maybe you're not doing anything wrong. Maybe you just need to learn something new. Maybe you just need to be patient. So that's one example of breaking down one thought. So you guys can see how you really got to take the time to just dig into it a little bit. And the more you do it, the quicker you get at it, and you'll start to tease the facts out better. And why do we want to do that? Because you can choose where you put your focus, and we'll kind of get to that in the next point. But when you can tease out a fact that you know to be true, you can kind of have a conversation with yourself. Yes, my points aren't doing what I would prefer them to do at this moment in time in my journey. However, I know really successful people have lots of point fluctuations, and I'm not going to make that mean anything about me. So you see what I'm saying? You're going to choose a bridge thought for that. All right, so alongside your feelings and thoughts, you're going to bring other things into the picture that you know to be true. So step 5, where is your effort? That's the best I could do for E, effort. Where's your effort? Again, we've kind of talked about the two extremes. You don't want to be wallowing and festering in any negative feelings and just kind of talking negative to yourself and making things worse, and catastrophizing is a good word. And then you don't want to be in denial about it. All right. So like, you can be too optimistic. You can be dangerously optimistic. You could close your eyes and cross a busy street and be like, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. It might not be fine. So there is a middle ground for you to be optimistic and be hopeful, but be smart and intelligent and strategic about it. And that's kind of what you're doing with this process today. So commit to working through this process and rinsing and repeating, rinsing and repeating. And why we do that is, guys, it takes repetition to rewire your brain. And if our natural tendencies are to lean towards negative, which is really protective, that's all your brain's trying to do is protect you. And sometimes the side effects of that are causing certain feelings that slow us down in our business. So you can just recognize like, hey, I don't need this protection right now. I appreciate it, but nothing I'm going to do is about to kill me, might make me a little nervous, might not know the outcome, but that's okay. Again, talking through this with your upline. And it brings me back to something I heard in a sermon the other day. What are the meditations of your heart? And do you meditate? Because you're meditating on negative thoughts and worries. That's what we do. If you want to call it that or not, you're meditating on it. So do you meditate on God's promises to take care of us and take you where he wants you to go as often as we meditate on our worries? I'm preaching to the choir here. I struggle with the exact same thing, but just ask yourself that and know that you're doing the work, the repetition, just like going to the gym and doing the reps. It takes time to strengthen that muscle. So step 6 is forward progress for your F, forward progress. We just want to move 1% better than we did yesterday. And guys, you can do 1% better than you did this morning. You can have a rough few hours and turn it around. So don't get the attitude of like, everything's lost. This is just how I'm feeling for the day. And if you have a bad day, you have a bad day. So what? Tomorrow you can reset and start over. If you've had a bad few weeks, so what? So be hopeful and be positive on that front, that tiny actions add up. And what are the best ways to reset yourself? That's going to look different for everybody. But guys, really learning about your brain's chemistry, your dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, honestly, taking your products consistently is like the best thing you can do for all your neurotransmitters. But still, you can learn ways to kind of leverage when you're not feeling your best. What are things you can do to kind of get your chemicals moving in the right direction? Usually, so there's 3 areas I'm going to hit on that specifically to help you for your business when you're feeling down, like action steps tomorrow if you're not feeling good. So first thing is you really got to think of self-care. And this is not the like, go get a pedicure massage kind of thing. For some people, it might be, but something as simple as getting moving, literally just getting up and getting moving. You don't have to go to the gym. If that makes you feel a lot better, do it. But when you're feeling really bad in the moment and not liking how you feel, just getting your blood flowing, walking up and down stairs, going for a really short walk outside, getting a tiny bit of natural sunlight. These things can just start shifting the chemicals in your brain and help you work through this process to reset. So don't underestimate. Some people love driving. It kind of makes your subconscious brain be busy and can sometimes be calming to people. So, hey, whatever works for you, take the time to think about it. What have I done to try to reset how I'm feeling right now? And am I taking care of myself? Have you slept? Maybe you just need a snack. Like a lot of things in the world can be solved with a nap and a snack. I swear, guys, it's amazing. And then connections in there. Who are you going to reach out to? Who are you going to connect with? And if there's no one in the moment to talk to, sometimes it's crazy times. There's no one right in that moment. Go watch some diamond documentaries. When we watch movies that really give us that feeling like, oh, I just love it. I love movies. That's oxytocin. So some people get that from holding babies, and so you can also get it from watching movies. So diamond docs are like little movies, guys, and our brain sees it as human connection and is going to give you not the same level that you would if you were together and like give somebody a hug, but it's a small dose of it, and it's something good to do in the moment to help yourself. And then your IPA. Action. So if you notice, that's the thing here. We're thinking through stuff, but you need to take some action to help think through. Get up, get moving, get outside, connect with someone. Going on a walk outside and calling your friend would be like the best way to do it ever. You're hitting everything at once. And then you're just going to agree to go do some IPA. Guys, it doesn't, if you're feeling bad and having a rough day, it doesn't have to be an hour. 15 minutes is better than 0 minutes. Talk to your friends, say, let's stay on the phone together. I'm going to send one message, one follow-up, one post. I'm going to do something together, because momentum feeds momentum. And I think the biggest mistake I see is people underestimating what small moves can do. One message, one post. They think of all these things that their ideal day would be. And we need an ideal day. And most of the days we can knock that stuff out. And if you're never knocking out your ideal day, you might need, that can be discouraging. So you might need to adjust what your really realistic ideal day is, so you can feel that dopamine, that sense of achievement. But little wins, why do you think we like to have a to-do list and cross it off? Give yourself credit for little wins, and you'll be amazed once you get that ball rolling, the kind of the speed that you can pick up. So hopefully that makes sense on that front. So just kind of closing things out here. police your thoughts. All right. They will run out of control like crazy kids with no rules if you don't give them parameters, and you are in control. I want to empower you to dismiss the thoughts that aren't serving you, and not to have any emotions about the thoughts that show up. Just decide which ones that you want to keep. Recognize negative patterns, negative thinking patterns. You tend to make them personal. You tend to make them permanent. Like, I'm doing things wrong. Things are never going to change. If you start hearing a lot of I statements about how you're feeling, you need to pull out of that. Okay. And again, they say, return to your why and stuff. The only reason that works is you're pulling away from being self-centered about how you're feeling. And I don't say that in a negative way. I just say that in a way that that's the way our brain works. And it's going to make you feel better to take a step back and have some faith. We say it all the time, have faith in the process. There's tens of thousands of people that this process has worked for, and trust that you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing with the right company and the right team. It's not happenstance that you're here. You're supposed to be here, and it's okay to have good days and bad days. And I really I thought about it the other day, like, what is a childhood memory that you have where you really took a leap of faith with no fear? And it's going to be different for everybody. And it could be as an adult, but I feel like as kids, we're just more trusting. And I remember jumping off the diving board at like the public pool to my dad, like the high dive, and my dad was going to catch me. And it was so fun. Zero fear. I had no fear. I was just going to go do it. I trusted it was going to work out and he was going to catch me. I didn't stand up there, think about all the things that could go wrong. Sometimes you just got to do that. Okay. Allow yourself to hope, allow yourself to trust your peers here, that you're not alone. You have plenty of support. Whatever you need to learn, you will figure out, and you will be able to walk someone through. That's my last point. Walk someone through whatever struggle you're in. And I really think that that's the main reason God allows us to go through some really hard times, is you're going to have someone on your team one day that's struggling with that exact same thing, and you would be ill-equipped to walk them through, hey, I know how you feel. I felt it. I promise you're going to feel better. I'm going to show you what I did to feel better, and we're going to get you moving in the right direction. All right. Hopefully you have a step-by-step like recipe and plan for the next time I'm feeling kind of crappy. Tova said to do these things. I'm going to go do them. Write it out on a piece of paper. You don't have to keep the paper. You can throw it away, but writing it and talking to someone and just being nice to yourself, guys. All right. Have a great Monday. I'll talk to you later.